Welcome to the post-game press conference for the FIBA Women's Asia Cup 2023 bronze medal match between Australia and New Zealand. Australia defeated New Zealand 81-59. New Zealand coach Guy Malloy and Penina Davidson have joined us. I ask you to switch your phones to silent. This will be conducted in English. Coach, a word about the game.
Look, I'm just really pleased for our program and for the nation that we're actually here at this point. So more than anything else, I think it's a real celebration for us and something we've worked very hard to get. No matter the result we've had through the semi-finals, playing the top four teams has been a great experience, and yeah, very proud of the team and very happy to be here.
Penina, a word.
I feel the same way, just very proud of our program, and now we have new heights to reach. It's going to be an exciting few months to get ready for the next phase.
And we'll open up to questions.
Guy, you lost to Power after about 2.5 minutes there. What was the problem with her, and how much did it affect you losing a starter so early?
Yeah, she's had issues with a sublux shoulder for some time. It's quite unstable. She got popped pretty hard on it, so it's a very acute pain reaction that she gets, so it was just too painful, she couldn't continue. I think that it probably, the reaction, I mean, sure, it took away her passing and her three-point shooting, which has been a big thing for us, and I think that was probably the biggest impact. Like, we shot the three ball quite, poorly. So she's always great help with that. But look, as with this tournament and team, we've got a very youthful side, and it just created opportunity for other, what I think are real emerging stars in New Zealand basketball.
Really, someone like Charisse in particular had almost a breakout tournament, I guess. So they're probably not at her best today, but how do you assess the impact she's had over the last week?
Yeah, we kind of strategised to make Charisse our chief point guard a few years back. She's probably been more of a shooting guard through her junior career, and just start to build on the skill set that she needs to be an elite level international, and particularly since we've got such a heavy pick and roll offense, to have the skills to play around that. And yeah, look, she has had overall a very good tournament, and I think that the more consistently we can get access to training via camps and that kind of thing, it helps our repetition. Of course, she's got to go into a senior year at Washington State yet, and we kind of lose that connection for a period of time. But those coaches in that program are helpful with things. But yeah, like she's hopefully our chief playmaker for some period of time to come.
I know it's a team sport, but you were really great today and just all tournament. Are you proud of how you've been able to lead this team of girls?
Yeah, but that was with Stella Beck, who's our captain, and she was awesome. She came back after that COVID break, and it's just her goal. She would say to me, she's my roommate, she would say she just wants to make everyone feel good, and to come forth and have everyone feel good is a pretty good achievement. And then we've got some new bloods that have just played so awesome and done so well in such a high pressure goal that we set out.
Do you have any idea what your path is from here on in terms of the next step of qualification?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I felt great by the support that the Federation and the high performance arm of the Federation has in terms of their motivation to really help the Ferns progress. Obviously, the Tall Blacks have had such wonderful success on the international stage, and I feel the same motivation coming out of the Federation for the women's program. But funnily enough, a lot of our planning has kind of stopped at this point, because it's a point we haven't really progressed further from. So we had issues to say, well, do we put all our eggs in this kind of basket and get through with what we have and then think about it after then, or do we hold back a little bit and save some for later? So, it will be an issue for us. It's uncharted territory, but I know that the motivation is very high, and I'm very confident that the administration will find the resources we need to get together enough to be ready for February.
Yeah, Guy, I was going to ask, you mentioned that it is a youthful team. With the resurgence of women's basketball in New Zealand and the Te Iwi New Zealand League, How do you see the future of the Tall Ferns and the program from your perspective as a head coach?
Yeah, well, very excited, I suppose, is the positive answer for the youth that we have coming through because of the number of rookies that we sort of blooded through this campaign. Practically, we've got gaps to fill. So for us to play China, Korea, Japan, Australia, we're playing against fully professional basketball players, and probably 75% of the players we had on the floor there today are just rank amateurs. So they're doing it for love, they're not doing it for much money at all other than to really cover expenses. So that is a real difficulty in terms of standards, because it's one thing to say, well, we want you to have the training volume and accountability that, say, Australia may have or Japan may have, but I've got to work a job and I've got to go to uni and I've got to do those things. So I think that's the next chapter for women's basketball in New Zealand, is an increase in professionalism so that players can devote more time to their chosen sport.
So, in terms of the impact of the tournament, how have you guys, this is a question more towards both of you, how have you guys seen the whole tournament as a whole? Would you say that with the junior involvement in this team, would you say that they've been overwhelming in terms of how they've lifted? What has the impact of the young players been like? And if you two can.
They've had some massive moments. Like, I keep going back to that Korea game, which was such a big goal for us. And Taylor, you know, like they don't understand how long we've been doing, like for the previous campaign we had, and then to come in and to hear us talking about that campaign and how much that previous campaign meant to us, and get such a key layup, and Crystal to knock such a big couple of free throws, you know, when she's getting booed, and then the hustle play, and then again in the Philippines. To have the young ones come in and relieve that tiny little bit was massive. It was so huge. They just kind of filled in the gaps where we were lapsing and then carried through.
And in terms of the impact that these young ones have back home, what would you like for all the female basketballers back home, these emerging stars, to look at them like? What are you hoping to achieve, like more women to pick up a basketball and start trying? And what are you hoping to have as the impact back in New Zealand?
Well, we actually just got a really beautiful written note from, I think, a young girl called Mabel, who said she came into this tournament, knew nothing about basketball, and after watching us, she now wants to give it a shot. That's kind of what we want to inspire, just the young ones, even little boys, little girls that just want to pick up a basketball. And the more engagement we have, you know, the more we can start competing with the more saturated countries that have like numbers in hundreds, you know, so it's good.
Amazing.
Great.
Guy, you qualified ahead of South Korea, who I think were the fourth ranked nation in Asia. Do you think people back home understand how big this is in terms of taking that next step? Because you said traditionally the 12 Ferns have struggled to get beyond this stage, and how big was that win over Korea? I
think they're waking up to it now based on the messages I'm getting. I think that it was sort of a little bit blasé, not quite sure what things were about, and then once the realisation hits, well, you know, that elevates us to top 16 in the world kind of thing in terms of the next stage tournament. I think that's really got people genuinely excited, and I know that the Tauihi season begins soon in New Zealand, and I'm really hoping that has a dramatic lift in standard from last year, because that's the hard thing to hold on to, the lessons that the players have learned from this Asia Cup. That they can't let the lessons go, and they're the points that we want to hit home with, so that these things remain, these pressure moments remain fresh in our mind. As I've explained over and again to the young players, when they stop concentrating, you play Japan and you stop concentrating, the penalty is pretty enormous, or China or something, you know, like you just pay for it so much. So the attention to detail that they need with their games is something I would like them to hold on to.
As Leonardo got one more. You're going back to New Zealand to play now. How are you excited to see the local game change and grow?
I'm really excited. You know, it was so devastating when COVID happened and our league wasn't up and running. But if we're trying to compete with, like I said, the top 16 teams, we need to have a domestic league just to keep the engagement and this kind of feel of these tournaments alive. So I'm super excited to be a part of it.
Jacinta, did you have a question at all?
No, not today.
All right, well, we might wrap it up there, but thank you, New Zealand. Congratulations on 4th in the tournament. That wraps up the first part of the press conference. We'll be back with Australia shortly. Welcome back to the second part of this post-game press conference. We now have with us bronze medalists, Team Australia, Coach Shannon Seebohm and Captain Tess Madgen join us. Coach, a comment about the game.
Yep. First of all, congratulations to New Zealand on a great tournament. Guy is a phenomenal coach and he's done a great job with that group. And we played them a week ago in a practice game and they've certainly improved a lot since that day, and they played extremely tough today. And then on the flip side, very proud of our group for what we've been able to accomplish here. Everyone hit the floor today, and we obviously backing up after a tough game last night. struggled to find the energy early on, but we managed to grind out a really good win. So thrilled to get the bronze medal and very proud of my team.
And Tess, a comment?
Oh, I think Shannon said it perfectly. That was a real slog today. So huge congrats to New Zealand, but just super proud of my 11 other teammates. We got thrown together last week as a brand new team, and Shannon and the rest of the coaching staff did a great job of putting together a great game plan, and the team really stuck to it. And when we did stick to it, we could have beaten anyone at this tournament. So just super proud of them to get back up after such a quick turnaround last night and get up and get the W.
Tess, you've been out with injury a lot in the past 6 months. Was there ever any doubt that you could get back at this level?
Absolutely, there was. I've been out for injury basically since the World Cup, so it's been a year. The Asia Cup was never really on the cards. It was just to rehab and get really healthy and fit for WNBL. But I had a great rehab team around me at the Victorian Institute of Sport, and they pushed me hard, and then Asia Cup was in the sights. So that was really good motivation for me. I'm really glad and grateful that they did that and that I could perform and be here. I think, going into the tournament, probably didn't think I would have a bigger role as I did, as I hadn't played for a year. But as one of the experienced players who's been to multiple international tournaments, I really had to lead in that way. And international basketball is so different from WNBL. So it's awesome that all these, players that haven't had a chance to play international now have that experience, and that's going to hold them in really good stead in the future.
A lot of these new girls for a long time. How special is it meant to be able to bring together this team?
Yeah, it just goes to show the great depth in women's basketball in Australia. I think, anyone in that 27-person squad could step up and make this team, and it's just, like I said before, a great opportunity for those players who got a chance, and they should be extremely proud of themselves. It's not every day you get to wear the green and gold, and everyone that stepped on the court contributed, and then when they got their minutes, and then it was just great culturally as well. Those players that didn't get as many minutes really bought into the culture, and super proud of those 12 girls.
And just lastly, you told me the other day that you really want to go to the Paris Olympics. How is kind of having new blood and new energy in the team kind of make you feel like you've just got so much more to give?
Great question, Abby. Yeah, it does. They keep me young. I think the average age of the team was like 25, so way different. But yeah, they have great energy. I really love getting to know all of the new players, and the more people we can get on the same page with how the Opals play, the sisterhood, the culture, the better that team is going to be to go to Paris. And we want everyone on that squad thinking that they can make that team and really push the final 12 players that do make it to earn their spots.
Shannon, what for you were the kind of major positives, the major takeouts out of this tournament?
Look, I think there's a lot, to be honest. I think obviously the fact that we made it through the qualification process, I think given, and just the adversity the team faced. We lost Steph Reed right before the tournament. We lost Tolo right before the tournament. I think you throw those two players in there, and all of a sudden our game last night looks very different. And just I think the girls, the resilience that they showed. It's tough playing this many games in such a short space of time, and to have so many young players and inexperienced players that haven't really been through this and don't understand how physical it is, and even the change in style of play. So I'm very proud of how we adapted to that, and we managed to fight our way through each game. It's just been a thrill to be a part of it.
Jacinta?
Tess, speaking of culture, it's really pleasing to hear that some of our emerging Opals in this squad have got a true taste of what Opals culture is really about. And the Opals program have had so much success now in less than 12 months. So what do people like yourself as leaders of this group, how do you ensure that the team stays grounded during all of this success?
Great question. I think, the legacy of the Opals is the culture, really. All the people that came before us have really paved the way of how Opals basketball should be played. And Shannon really preached that. Like, we want to play tough. It starts at the defensive end. We need to move the ball, run the floor. And when we did that, when we played that feed element of our culture, we were really hard to stop. So it starts before we come into this camp. Most of the people here were at camp earlier in the year, straight after the WNBL season, and we do a lot of work. We have meetings, and then it's just if someone's not in line, we have to have a hard conversation. And gratefully, we didn't have to do that this week. But yeah, just really trying. I'm a big preacher of building meaningful relationships, getting to know your teammates, getting outside of yourself, no cliques, so that when push comes to shove on the court, we have that trust, and all the players have bought into that. So it's a huge success.
Shannon, I think China had something like 8 of their World Cup squad here this year for this tournament. There obviously makes things difficult for you. Do you think people might actually underestimate what it takes for you to finish third? I mean, and obviously you wanted to win the tournament, it goes without saying, but you're obviously without some key players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's certainly people just expect that when Australia turn up that you're going to win. I think especially the Opals, because it's just been that way for so long. And we were talking about this yesterday, just how much I suppose the rest of the world has actually started investing in women's, not just basketball, but sport in general. And I think it's great. You come to a tournament like this, and probably 12 years ago, the Opals would have been expected to beat China and Japan quite handily. And I think maybe at the 2 Olympics ago or 3 Olympics ago, we beat them by 50 points in the quarterfinal. So I think it shows how much the world is developing in terms of the women's game. And I think for us, it also, to show that we can get so close to a team like that did win a silver medal at the World Cup, missing, 10 players of our World Cup team. I think it just shows how much depth we have as a nation as well. So the development pathways we have, and the WNBL obviously is a great league. It's one of the best in the world, and probably doesn't get enough credit for that. But it just shows the depth that we have to be able to roll out with a fresh group and go and compete. And probably if we made a few more of our opportunities count in terms of layups and things yesterday, we might have won that game. So it's it's really positive signs.
When do you expect to learn more about the next step in the qualification process?
I believe I actually just got told, I believe sometime after the Under-19s World Cup finishes, they'll probably start to, and because obviously every region is playing their championships at the moment, so once they have all of that, then they'll have an idea, and I think they'll go through the process of allocating the pools, and we'll find out a bit more about who we play in the next phase of it.
Shannon, I want to find out from you, when you first stepped in as a head coach of the WNBL at the Flames, and today you're sitting here as the head coach of the Opals, how does that journey feel for you?
It's kind of unbelievable, to be honest with you. I grew up in a very small country town, and a place called Millicent that no one's ever heard of.
Country represent.
Tess has heard of it, but that's the only person. And obviously have had some adversity along the way, and I've still faced some certain challenges and things in terms of health and that sort of thing that stopped me from playing. And then, as you said, to be given the opportunity to head coach the Sydney Flames at 26 years old, and not only do that, but then still be here coaching, nearly 10 years later, and be coaching the Opals is something I never would have imagined would have, been in the realm of possibility for me. So, I feel extremely lucky to be in this position, and really thank Basketball Australia for their faith and support in me to give me this opportunity.
So, out of the, I'm going to ask you, Tess, being the captain, out of the debuting Opals, was there a moment or a player in particular that really surprised you the most because of how they really came to the party? Any key takeaway with the debuting group?
I thought they all did a really good job. Amy Atwell came in with a bit of a sore ankle. That gave her a little bit of a slow start into camp last week, but for starters, all 3 of them were great culturally, which is the most important thing, especially, we want those people that are debuting to come in and really buy in, and they did that. Probably, exceeded expectations with that, especially Chantel Horvat. But Chloe Bibby had an amazing training camp last week. She really shot the ball extremely well. And, you see that in WNBL, but to be able to see that, when we're playing China, playing New Zealand last week in those practice games, it was awesome.
And for yourself? Shannon's same question, like as a coach, like especially with the debuting group, or it might not be the debuting group. Like, is there any key takeaway moment with the group as a whole, or any player that really stands out to you in this tournament?
Yeah, look, to be honest, like, it's been great for me just because I coach WNBL, so I coach against all of these players. And I've crossed paths with some of them in the past in junior teams, World Junior Games, etc. But, I think just to have the opportunity again to, like, work with a Lauren Scherf, a Keely Froling, a Tess Madgen, who I coached my first year in Townsville, and, and I just want to give Tess some credit. Like, she's developed incredibly as a leader, since I first met her and coached her and things, and it's actually very admirable what she's able to do with a group of people and the influence that she has. But, I've kind of, to answer your question, it's been great to really just see all of them in this environment, and I think be able to help guide them and, provide feedback and those types of things, and just how willing they were to take that on board, given I'm not the full-time Opals coach. And I think all of our players are probably going to go away from this tournament with a handful of things they can continue to develop in their game. And, it's exciting. I think, obviously, we've got a core group of players who are probably coming to the end of their careers in terms of Australian representation in the next couple of years. And to see the Shyla Heels, the Lauren Scherfs, etc. coming through, Maddie Rochi's another one that I think are going to be playing in the green and gold for years to come is a really exciting thing.
Sure. And last question. Have you heard from Sandy yet?
Yeah, she texted me just before. Yeah, so she said well done, and she told me she's going to give me a call in a couple of days. So, yeah, she's been great. She's kept in contact, and it's been really nice to have someone like that just reach out with messages of support throughout this process. Yeah.
We'll just jump over here.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. You've led Australia now to 2 back-to-back Rose Bowls. Tess, have you had time to process that as captain of Australia?
Nope. All these emotions are deep down inside of me, otherwise I'll start crying. Nah. Nah, it is obviously a huge honour to lead your country. It's my biggest accomplishment. But I'm just so grateful. It's been a really hard 12 months. I wanted to retire at one point just because the amount of pain and stuff I was in, and couldn't really see the light out at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, I feel great. I'd like to get a little bit fitter before WNBL starts. These were my only 6 games, I've played in a year. So to answer your question, no, I haven't processed it yet. I just tried to a tiny bit then, but cried. But yeah, I'm just so grateful to be back playing, and what a huge honour it was that those first games were with the Opals. So I'll be doing everything I can, like everyone else in the squad, to ensure that we have a really, really good team for the next stage of qualifiers, and after that, for the Paris Olympics.
I'm sorry, Tess, I've just got one more if that's alright.
Yeah.
The perfect timing. I just want to quickly ask about your Opals teammate Ezzy, who got named WNBA All-Star. You must be just so proud of her.
Yeah, that really, I think, lifted the spirits of a lot of us this morning to see that all over social media, and see a huge, big, warm smile as she got told the news by a coach, and everyone just getting around her. She would have absolutely hated that. But no, couldn't have happened to a better person. She's so humble. She's had a great start to the WNBA season. The floor. What's the saying? The roof is just the ceiling.
The world's an oyster?
I don't know, something. She's amazing. She could be anything she wants to be. So to see her, get named as one of the best players in the WNBA, which is the best league in the world, is so deserving. And I hope she goes out there and kills it.
Great. Well, congratulations, Team Australia. That concludes the post-game press conference.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.